Come here now, girl.
Hello and welcome to Map Making with me, BonBonB. I'm BonBonB. You're very, very welcome, and welcome back to Duvo, the provisional name for my second ever map build. It's going to be a very, very busy episode today. We're going to talk about upcoming episodes, or lack of, and also talk about the Brittle Bridge. We're going to start off by fixing this very shallow water. This is high tide. It's very glitchy looking, so we're going to drop the sand level just by a metre or so, and that will hopefully fix the problem once and for all, and then we can crack on and do some other fixing. Lots and lots of things to do today. We will finish the episode with the mystery. Yes, a lot of you want to know what's going on with that. But next up, you can't actually see the glitching here, but when you go into the game engine, there is some glitching where the highway joins here, where it all merges together. The only way I found of fixing it was to go up to 3 lanes. I really wanted to avoid that if I could, but seems the only way I could do that was by going up to 3 lanes. Didn't have any glitching on this side, mind you, but I felt that I kind of had to make them match on either side, otherwise it just wouldn't have made any sense at all. I don't mind the fact that it stays 2 lanes before the off split, but the 3 lanes merging out means that you've got an extra lane that you can come into safely. That's kind of like makes sense to me. That's why I'm going with it. So yeah, lots going on today. Next one here, this bridge here in the game engine glitches out. So what we're going to try doing is try upgrading the roads to 3 lanes and then downgrading back down to 2 and seeing if that makes any difference, and if not, then we'll have to find an alternative system, a different road for the bridge. Makes sense to have a different road for the bridge anyway, but I just thought I'd let you know what I'm doing here. Now, speaking of bridges, the Brittle Bridge, where I was moving the pillars in the last episode but 1 or thereabouts, and a couple of you suggested why don't I just delete them completely, and there is in my mind a very good reason for this. I want this map to be accessible to all. That's those people with the potato for a computer and those with NASA for a computer, and everybody in between. Now, some of you are not going to want any custom assets at all, no custom bridges at all, and that being the case, that long spell without any pillars in the middle is going to look a little bit daft. Admittedly, the other 2 bridges would be minus pillars as well. I'm going to find it very hard to hide those for starters, and but they are smaller spans also, so they don't look quite so silly. They'll look a bit silly, but they won't look quite so silly. I've got some glitching here with terrain. If you remember the last episode, we pointed this one out, and I'm just going to move the terrain back here. This isn't job done, by the way, by any stretch of the imagination at all. We've got slightly different elevations on the road there. I'm going to come back and fix that later on as well. I'm going to run over this with the smoothing tool, because what we've got here doesn't look like cliff edges, but I promise you when we go into the game engine, these are cliff edges right up to the road edge. That's how the game renders it, slightly different from the map editor. And I know a lot of map makers complain about this, and me personally, actually, I don't mind it. I don't mind. It just goes to show the map creators that go the extra mile. If you make it too easy, then every Tom, Dick and Harry is going to try and produce a work of art, and you can't tell the great map creators from the average ones. I think this way, the great ones will stand out. I think so. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking with it. I'm not putting myself into the great category just yet, by the way. Extending the sandbank a little bit further here. We've been doing this for a few days now. We probably fill the whole river up with sand by the end of the map creation. Now, I'll say at the end of today's episode, I know a lot of you are wondering what is going on. What's my last feature area? And I'm not going to tell you what it is just yet, but we will be almost completing it by the end of today's episode. Almost. One thing we won't be doing in today's episode is with regard to trees. Now, while I'm going to be moving back a lot of trees away from the waterline today, although we're a long way back from the waterline, the sand texture that I'm using for the final map in the full mode, because once again you'll be able to play this in this mode. This is going to be the standard mode, the standard just basic mode, I would suggest, and then there will be all the bells and whistles with the theme mixer. And when using my final chosen themes mixed together, this sand extends a little bit further up. It's a stronger sand texture, so it actually extends a bit further up, even by not moving anything. So what I'm doing at the moment is I'm going to move some of this foliage back a little bit, because while it looks great in this is a Springwood theme, while it looks really good in Springwood, it's having this amount of foliage, sort of, I don't know, 10-15 meters down into the actual sand on the beach, looks just a little bit too silly, in my opinion. And I know that you can get foliage growing on the beach. I know that. I live near the beach, and there is foliage growing at various locations on the beach. So yes, I get that. But what I'm just not buying into is the way that it works on this particular map, and so therefore I'm shoving it all back a little bit. You'll see me doing a lot of this. One thing I won't be doing today, and I said I would be doing, but I kind of A, ran out of time, and B, well, oops, I forgot. And I will go and do it, is the repetition with the trees. Just a little bit of repetition going on with the trees, where I was using the Move It tool to copy and paste. And if you go onto the main island, around the hills on the main island, up ahead, those hills on your right now, you can actually see a little bit of a pattern with the trees. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete a few of those at a later point. Now, you probably saw me hovering there doing nothing for a few moments. The reason behind that is it's actually a very valid reason. Rather than make written notes about everything that I needed to do, because there were a lot of little jobs like these areas here, moving trees back here as well for the same reason, with the beach extending further up than it would appear. Rather than write it all down, I took some screenshots to remind me of exactly what trees and exactly what location. And so every now and then, when there's a short pause of about half a second, if that, like now, paused, what I'm doing is I'm looking at the screenshot, deciding, I need to come over here now, and I need to do these trees. Where were we? No, these trees here, that was it. So yeah, I found them on the screenshot, I matched them up, and I realised I had to move these as well. So those are the short pauses you will see in today's episode, with me leaving the game window open and opening up some graphics software that I've got, and looking at the next screenshot. Here we're going to put a few more trees. I did say we're going to do this around this tunnel entrance, because it just looks a little bit bland since we've made a couple of changes to the slope of the entrance now. So that's looking a lot better. I've got to say, I have now finished doing the theme mixing and my final LUT selection. Those of you that are fans of the Definitive Vision LUT will be glad to know that we'll be using Definitive Vision in the final map itself, in the full version, and the recommended LUT for Springwood will be the Realistic by Reaper, just because I think that works better with Springwood on its own. But of course, as always, you can use whatever LUT you like, and of course you can use any themes you like, but I spent some time matching up the themes to get the exact textures that I want for the cliffs and the sand. And the sand might surprise some of you, actually, because I think a lot of you are expecting this to be like a tropical island type map, and I don't see it that way. I'm feeling this as being a Northern Europe map. Or what we got here, by the way, what I'm doing here is regard to sand. The beach extends quite a long way up in certain places with my chosen themes. Doesn't show here, but so I'm basically erasing sand that exists in the game engine somewhere around here. I'm not exactly sure where I'm aiming, to be honest with you, but I know there's sand up there somewhere. So by doing that, hopefully I'm getting rid of the sand off of the hill in the theme mixer. I will be doing a little bit of work with these harbour walls. I'm not happy, not best happy with the harbour walls. There is quite a bit of serious glitching in the game engine, and so the final map edit will probably be slightly wider harbour walls. That's just let you know of that one. And also possibly the shape of this little E shape harbour in the middle, that may be changed as well, just a little bit. Haven't decided exactly, but I'm not best happy. There is one thing I will be doing though, and it's an idea that I've stolen from our good friend Mr. Miyagi, having reviewed one of his maps. What was it? Which one was it? It was the one this weekend. It was today's map, wasn't it? Oh, I've forgotten. Anyway, yes, he did a little bit of foliage on these glitchy bits that are along the harbour walls that are very hard to do anything with. You can do a certain amount with it, but eventually you're actually stuck with bits that you can't do, and I think that's a really inspired thing to do, so I'm stealing his idea there. So yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Miyagi. You've made my map look a lot better already. Thank you very much. He's a star. He really is. He's a lovely bloke, and I advise you all to subscribe to everything he's ever done, and just to inbox him, spam him in the inbox, so that he can't get any work done for 2 or 3 days. No, please don't do that. Please don't do that. That's just a little bit mean. But yes, do go and subscribe to some of his. He's got some nice assets as well as all of his maps, and all of them incredibly playable. So yes, that's that done. I'm going to do a little bit more work trying to get rid of some of these glitchy bits if I can. I can't. They won't let me put down any foliage down there. So there we are. So yes, that is the cunning plan for today's episode. We're coming up. We're only a minute or so away now from actually starting on the final feature area, and it might surprise a few of you. It does actually work. I know. This is why I've saved it to last. It's just too good. We've got sand up here as well. Beaches extending up here. It does actually work, this. Much to my own surprise. So it's going to look really good when done. I promise you. I know that because I've got screenshots now of pretty much the final thing, and I'm quite pleased. And I don't think anybody else has done it, or if they have, not quite. Well, they've certainly not done it with the tides mod. Yeah, it's just me trying to be unique, trying to be a bit special. My mum thinks I'm special. Right, yeah, so we're just moving back some more stuff away from the beach a little bit because it's encroaching a little bit. But yes, this might be the last ever map making. Reason being, we're coming to an end now, and pretty much everything needs doing now is fiddly, and it's not going to make a very interesting show. So I might just have to, come down here and get ready for. There we are. Imported a load of stuff there. Now, like this Lucas Church here, you can't place this in the map editor because you've got to place it on a road, zone it on the road, and you can't zone roads in the map editor. So I placed it actually into the game engine itself, and I have imported it across using MoveIt. Thank you, SamSamTS. And I am now putting it in the water. That's what I'm doing. I am putting it in the water in the middle of the estuary. Yes. Can you see what I'm doing here? That's right. This is an eroded river peninsula. It's not words I'm looking for. I'm just aligning up the gravestones here, by the way. An eroded peninsula where the entire map was once above ground, and of course it's been eroded by the river, washing out and becomes sort of like a wider delta and an even wider delta. And what you're seeing here is possibly the last village that survived out in the delta on its own peninsula. As you can see, we've got shallower water out here, and we've got like the little let's see, I don't know what it's called. I know in Whitstable in Kent they have one of these that is caused by the Thames estuary, the Thames water rushing out into the North Sea, and then you've got also the the currents from the North Sea and the English Channel pushing around, pushing back towards it, and then you get this long stretch of shingle and sand that stretches out into the estuary. Anyway, we've got it's called the streets there, so I'm going to call it the street. I have no idea what, I can't think what it's called. It is a it is a sandbar, I guess, of sorts. And yeah, I see that as being held in place because that's where there was a road once. So there's probably some foundations underneath the sand that is preventing it from being washed away completely. Excuse me. So yes, that's how I'm seeing that. And then we've got the village. Now, not sure what's going to happen with this. This is the Berryville, I think that's correct, gas station. And I need to get it in shallowish water, because if it gets too deep, this will be destroyed. It's the only thing I'm worried about being destroyed. The Lucas Church, which is by Merrickstowe, seems to survive quite happily out there. Yes, it's complaining about no electricity and there'll be no garbage and whatever. And there are mods for that. And of course, that's something that if you're a detailer and you use mods, you may quite happily just get over. Or equally, you might just leave it as it is. Personally, I'll probably just leave it as it is when playing the game, because I want to deal with garbage. I want to deal with power and all that sort of jazz. But then when you go into screenshot mode, it's it'll just all these little warning symbols disappear when you go into screenshot mode, live camera view as such. And it doesn't matter that they're being flooded, because they're supposed to be flooded. They are supposed to be flooded. Now there are a few extra little trinkets that go with the gas station, like the canopy here. I'm going to try and push them roughly together. I don't mind if they're actually not perfectly aligned or even perfectly on the same level, because they're in the water and they are going to start falling apart. We've got a hole in the middle. I'm happy with that. That works for me. And the whole thing I'm quite happy with. So we're going to stick a gas station just down here, canopy, and there's also a couple of petrol pumps that come with it, gas pumps I guess, and also a gas sign. There's a few to choose from actually, but I've gone with the most generic one, the one that says gas. I quite like that. And what we're going to do is we're going to plop these down, and I'm going to have it this side of the village. If you imagine you're driving along what was probably the old A road or the national highway or whatever, before the dual carriageway, before the highway was built. As you're driving along, you realise you're running short of gas, petrol, diesel, whatever, and then you turn off and drive down to this little village because you know there's a gas station down there. That is how I see this gas station, a long way off of the actual main road. Basically mostly serving the actual village and people visiting the area, and that's why it's this side of the village, because well, you'd have the gas station between the village and the main road, wouldn't you? That makes a lot more sense than having it the other side of the village. All the actual buildings in the village are minus, in fact, yeah, all of the buildings in the village are minus the vanilla trees. I managed to find an asset on the workshop where somebody has taken the original abandoned building and removed the trees for me. I know there's a mod that can do that, but I don't want to have people have to use that mod, because then that'll remove your trees from every asset whether you like it or not, and I don't want to have to force you to do that. So I managed to find this asset, minus the trees. Also, this little van, it disappears. Right, hang on, we're going to pop it down there. It's definitely there, isn't it? And yeah, I promise you that disappears in game. Don't know why. All the other cars remain still there, all the burnt out cars. And then there's one last thing we'll do as well, and that's we're going to grab the dry stone wall and we're just going to put it down a couple of sides of the church, and that will be it. So yes, anyways, as I was saying, this might just be the last episode of map making. All the other jobs that are going to be done after today are fiddly, just fiddly stuff, going into the game engine, finding something that isn't quite perfect and adjusting it, and then going into the game engine again and adjusting it a little bit more, and so on and so on until we get all the fiddly bits sorted. It's not going to make for good viewing at all. There's nothing new going to be put down. All the detailing work is basically done. It's just looking for glitches, fixing glitches, and looking for problems and fixing problems. And that is basically all we're going to be doing, or I'm going to be doing. I'll say the theme and LUT are now well and truly fixed, and then I need to write up a description, take some screenshots, do all that stuff, sort out some one-click collections. We're actually going to do 3 one-click collections. One of them will be fully all the bells and whistles, all the mods, everything that you need to get it running as you want it, as I want it running. And then there will also be one for those with the potato, but includes the bridges, and then there'll be one for those with the potato that doesn't include the bridges, just so that you've got every option available to you, and you should be covered. Right, okay, that's it. That is it. That could be it from map making. There might be another one along. I'm not promising it, but it's likely that there won't be. Thanks for supporting me, for watching, for commenting, for liking and subscribing, and hopefully this map will be out in time for next weekend. Have a great week, and I'll see you very, very soon.